Welcome to the regular briefing session of the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners. Good to have everybody with us today. We are briefing, the second briefing for the April 15th meeting, which is tax day for everybody in this country, but it should be interesting what we end up with today. We have a full day. Manager Dudley Watts is here to help us through it. And for the first time to appear before the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners as superintendent of the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School System, we're happy to welcome Tricia McManus. And if you want me to, or if you'd like to have it, we could have each one of the commissioners identify themselves to you so you'll know who you're dealing with in the future. That ought to be a lot of fun to listen to. Having said all of that, we have the man who is in charge of the Forsyth County Public Health Department, Joshua Swift. Joshua's here to give us an update on the virus and what's going on to meet the problems related to the virus. Joshua?
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
Our COVID cases, as of 4/8/21, we have our total case count so far has been 33,723 cases. Over the last 14 days, we've had 623 cases, and our average cases per day now is 45 per day. Total deaths since the beginning of the pandemic is 363 in Forsyth County. You can see this is a chart I've showed you in weeks past. Just looking over the past year, our total number of lab tests versus cases. Our cases have went down, as are the number of tests that are being done per week. And we're also seeing a decrease in the percent positive for our cases. So this next chart shows the number of individuals in Forsyth County hospitals who are Forsyth County residents. And you can see while the number has ticked up a little bit in the last week, it is still in the 30s, far cry from where we were months ago as far as our hospitalizations for Forsyth County residents. Next slide shows our deaths over time in Forsyth County for Forsyth County residents. And you can see over the last 6 weeks, it's kind of pretty much stayed pretty level, a slight increase, but nowhere near where it was in early January and February. Next, we're going to talk about the COVID-19 vaccine. 22% of Forsyth County residents as of April 6th have been fully vaccinated. So 22% of Forsyth County residents are fully vaccinated. That's 85,526 residents. And 31.8% of Forsyth County residents are at least partially vaccinated. So partially vaccinated means at least one dose of Moderna or Pfizer, and that is 121,736 residents. The Forsyth County Department of Public Health, as of today or yesterday, has administered 74,307 total doses. Of that, 37,392 individuals have completed their series. That means they've had both doses of Moderna or Pfizer, or they've had their one dose of Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The way we are trending with our doses at the fairgrounds is that 75% of those people that come through to get a dose are Forsyth County residents. So 75% of our clients are Forsyth County residents, whereas the other 25% are outside the county, with the majority being in our neighboring counties in the Triad. This next chart shows just a breakdown by age and demographic of individuals who are fully vaccinated. You can see on the left, broken down by age, almost roughly 2/3 of individuals 65 and over have received both their vaccines, or at least one Johnson & Johnson, so they're fully vaccinated. Then you can see it decreases as you go into younger populations, with 24% of 50 to 64-year-olds, and then you can see only 19% of 25 to 49-year-olds. So while we have 22% of the population that's fully vaccinated, we really are, to get that number up, we're focusing now with our media push and our marketing on this younger demographic. Basically 50 and under, really a hard focus, but also continuing to keep people abreast than the 50 and older market, so we're focusing there. Next, when you look on the right-hand side, when you look at the racial demographics, you can see that 14% of African Americans in Forsyth County are fully vaccinated, 23% of white residents and 8% of Hispanic individuals. This next chart looks at those individuals that are at least partially vaccinated. 32% are partially vaccinated. Again, on the left, you can see that almost 75% or over 75% of those 75 years of age and older are partially vaccinated. 72% of those in the 65 and over category. And then it just goes down as you go into the younger demographics. So again, trying to focus on young adults, 25 to 49, as well as 18 to 24-year-olds, and people that are 16 and 17 and 18 are also a part of our emphasis, as that number is lower. We move over to the right-hand side of the screen, looking at the race information. You can see that 20% of African Americans are at least partially vaccinated, 32% of white individuals, and 14% of Hispanic individuals. The last slide I wanted to note is April 10th, that is this Saturday. Both hospitals and the health department are partnering together to offer 2 vaccine events. We'll be at the education building offering vaccine from 8 in the morning until 8 in the evening. And this vaccine is going to be distributed through the health department and Wake Forest. We're 90% full, so we're very excited about that. Those appointments are filling up. And then at the same time, Novant will be at the Sears building at Haynes Mall distributing 2,500 doses. So this weekend, over 8,000 doses of Johnson & Johnson vaccine, 1 dose of vaccine will be available for the community. So I'd be happy now to take any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Swift? Comments?
And one question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Fleming Elamine.
Joshua, about a month ago, I was with the Dr. Mandy and the governor in Fayetteville, and Dr. Mandy suggested they would have some mobile money available for certain counties to go to the marginalized communities. Have you gotten any word about anything like that in terms of resources coming from the state?
Thank you, Commissioner Elamine. I haven't received any word of money just for mobile outreach. We do have teams that are doing that mobile outreach. This week we were at a local homeless shelter. We are right now finishing up at Industries for the Blind. This afternoon we'll be in southeast Winston-Salem at an event focused on our Hispanic population. So we are continuing to do outreach 3-4 times a week to our historically marginalized populations. And yes, we would appreciate funding to help support that.
Additional comments or questions? Thank you, Mr. Swift. That was a very good report. Turn the meeting over now to County Manager Dudley Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You caught me by surprise. I thought you were going to introduce our superintendent, but
Well, we can both do that if you want to. I'd like to do that.
You are the premier introducer, so why don't I let you do that? So.
Well, in that case, and it's not because, well, go ahead and make an effort at it.
Make an effort at it?
Yeah,
Okay.
what do you think?
So as you know, historically, we've had given the opportunity for the school superintendent and for our president of our community college to come in quarterly and kind of update the board on what's going on in those organizations. They obviously represent the largest part of our budget, and so that is really, really important. And I know all of you probably had a chance to meet Tricia McManus. I have gotten to know her mostly in virtual meetings through in her involvement here, and she's really gotten up to speed on everything that's going on with the school system. I think she's going to be a dynamic leader for us, and so I welcome her to her first inaugural presentation to the county commissioners, and hopefully this will be the first of many. So.
Oh, sure. This is.
Did I do okay?
The first time I've ever seen her in person. She's always on the front page of the Winston-Salem Journal. That's good. And I did mention at the beginning of the meeting that we humbly say that we give you several $1 million a year to spend any way you want to. But it's a delight to have you with us as superintendent. And I think it might be a good idea. If you all want to do it, you can. If you don't, just defer back to me and I'll talk for a little bit. But to my right and to your left is the vice chairman of the county commissioners, one of the finest people around. He is from Georgia. He can't help that, but that's where he's from. He has wonderful ideas. He had a great run as superintendent of schools, and he's one of the few people I've ever said, no matter what it is, if you want it, I probably will vote for it if it has to do with schools. So with that, I'm going to give the Vice Chairman, Donald Martin, the opportunity to say a few words before you do.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tricia, it's nice to meet you in person. We've had a couple of Zoom meetings before, and obviously you don't need a welcome at this point. You've been in the district for at least 9 months, and have been at the superintendent's helm for about a quarter or plus. And at least the people I know in this community, I get very good feedback and appreciate your openness and willingness to talk with them. And we're real pleased that you're here and look forward to quarterly reports. And of course, the budget season is upon us, and it's a very, very unusual year with all the various sources of federal money to deal with. And I think maybe we'll get a chance to talk a little bit about that today with you, just a little, and because we're facing the same kind of challenge here. So anyway, welcome, and thank you so much for being here.
I'd like to introduce Gloria Woozenhunt, who at one time was a member of the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School Board. Mrs. Woozenhunt?
Hello. I welcome you here, and as a former school board member, I recognize what a tough job you have, so good luck, and we're very lucky to have you. Thank you.
Now, Fleming Elamede, right next to her, is a former Wall Street banker and a teacher at Glenn High School. And here he is.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Superintendent McManus, welcome. I put in about 40 years in education, and so I bleed education. So I do a little healing every now and then, but I'm looking forward to your leadership. I've heard only high remarks about you, and I really want to just support you in any kind of way that I can to make sure all of our students are successful as budding scholars in the Forsyth County school system. Welcome.
And you probably already have met Ted Kaplan, whose wife holds a very special position on the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School Board, but he is also a veteran member, former member of the North Carolina General Assembly, where he was the majority leader in the Senate. Mr. Kaplan.
Trish, good to see you. You too. We've spoken. So, welcome aboard, finally. It's good to see you.
Now, next to Commissioner Martin is Tanya McDaniel. She is a new grandmother, and that's basically all she talks about these days.
Congratulations. Greetings, Tricia. Glad to have you. I will say it's good to see a face with a name. I've not had an opportunity to formally meet you, but you do come highly recommended by our president of the NAACP, Mr. Al Wadud Jabbar. And I sit as the second vice chair to the NAACP. So I sincerely appreciate you. We are here to help you with the success of your journey as the superintendent for the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools, not only here as a commissioner, but also in the community for all of our children, but mostly our marginalized children. So I wanted to say thank you and glad to have you as well. Thank you.
Ms. McManus, there's one other person I've saved till last. He's been on this board since God created the heavens and the earth. He's a farmer. He's a father. He is probably he is considered to be one of the wiser people on this board. Richard Linville?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't get kind words all the time like that. I like them when I do get them. Everybody does. Good to have you with us here today, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you.
Now, we don't expect you to make a mistake for the next 4 years.
Oh, goodness.
And the floor is all yours. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. It is definitely an honor to meet all of you in person today, face-to-face. I was excited to have the in-person option as my first time coming in front of you. There's a definitely different feel when you're face-to-face. Plus, I wouldn't want to freeze. Josh looked great, but he froze for a few seconds. I would not want that to happen, so I'm really glad I came in person. But anyway, and Josh, thank you for that amazing report. Some of my update today is going to be a result of the really amazing work done by our health department this year, our just the way we've handled the pandemic, and it has been great working with Joshua and his team. So with that, I'm going to give 3 distinct updates, and I can stop in between each one. They're very quick, just a few slides for questions, or I can wait till the very end. So if you want to ask questions as we go, you can, or we can wait. But-
Just do what's comfortable for you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So the first one really is about our safe return to in-person learning. I figured you might want to know where we're at with that. I know I try to update you on the meetings that Dudley holds every other week. I wasn't on the last one. I think Daryl updated you, and Daryl is also on the Teams meeting. So when we get to the bond update, he might have to help me in some areas, depending on your questions. But here we go. So our journey to get our kids back in school has been extremely intentional this year. It has not just been, let's bring everybody back at once, but the goal the entire year has been to get our students back in classrooms where they can thrive. And we've seen with our results this year that most students do thrive in in-person learning, although some have been successful with remote. So I'm showing you this timeline just because it kind of paints the picture of where we are and where we've been. Let me see if this went, nope. One of the bottom of this slide got cut off, but it shows, oh no, it's there, April 19th. Our goal at the end of all of these dates, and the reason we were strategic with the dates was so that we could ensure the safety of our students while ensuring that they received a quality education. And so our very last milestone here is on April 9th, all high school students will be able to return 4 days a week, those that choose to. The other thing that's very important to know is that remote learners, if there's a family or student that chooses to stay remote, they can stay remote. So when I say all students return, those are students that are choosing to. So you can see again, April 19th, actually next Monday is a big day for us, right after spring break. We'll go from 4 cohort high schools to 2 cohorts. And then on April 19th, all of our high school students that choose to can return to 4 days a week. So we're so excited because that has been our goal this whole time. And we would not be here without the work of this entire community. So we appreciate that. Just so you know a little bit, and I don't know if you keep up with the NC Strong Schools Toolkit. I actually bet many of you do. But basically, we have been, this entire year, we've been guided by our local epidemiologist. We've been guided by meeting with the health department, and we've also been working with ABC Duke Collaborative. All districts that are going to Plan A for all students are required now by the state to work with ABC Duke Collaborative. And so we've already been working with them. And so they look at our data. They'll be looking at our data weekly as we bring our high school students back to make sure that we stay on track with keeping our case count down and keeping spread down, although we are going to be lessening our physical distance in our classrooms in order to be able to get more students back in class. So here's the language from the toolkit that describes the process. And then here's the last one with CDC. So as you can see with this, in elementary schools, about a month or so ago or more, you could reduce the distancing in classrooms. And so we, as soon as that was allowed, we brought all of our elementary students back in. And middle and high school, as long as transmission in the community is low, you can do it there as well. So again, thanks to our community and being very intentional around following the mitigation strategies, we're able to get all students back. So that is the quick update on our return. And the next one is about extended learning program. And so basically, we're calling extended learning program both our current program in the spring and then our summer program. And so I will tell you why this is so important. If you look at our data, we have more students not passing coursework. We have more students that have fallen behind this school year as a result of the pandemic and of remote instruction. Although some have thrived, many have not. And I will tell you, the students that have been hurt the most have been students that are on a standard curriculum track have been hurt the most. And so basically, right now in the spring, every school submitted a extended learning plan, and these plans are amazing. They're different for schools, they're innovative, but basically students are getting additional tutorials and support either before or after school, during the day, and on Saturdays. And so that's happening now. And when we talk about these extended learning program opportunities, we're talking about accelerating student learning. The worst thing we can do from now until next school year is to focus on remediation, because you're never going to catch kids up. So this is really about accelerating student learning through these opportunities. So that's happening now till the end of the school year, and then we will go into our extended learning program for the summer. So you can see the purpose of our summer programs. It is for pre-K to 12 grade students, and as you'll see in the next couple of slides, there are many opportunities. Here's the purpose. I'm not going to read it to you, but basically at the end of the day, it's to take kids that were negatively impacted by COVID and by remote learning, and just by any type of learning loss, and to accelerate them so that when they start school in the fall again, they are back on track. Our summer program, we are designing it for the next 3 years because we know that after a year, 1 year of summer is not going to make up for everything. And so we will continue the support throughout next school year and into the next 3 summers. But you can see it's going to be not only reading, writing, math, and science, but we'll also offer enrichment programs and also do a lot of work with our families. And so it's a very comprehensive summer program design. Here are some of the other details. You can see in the first line, I've added a 1 to 10 ratio. So our goal, especially for struggling learners or students that are below grade level at this point in reading, we're going to be using a 1 to 10 ratio in those classrooms this summer. And so and the summer programming is really for any student that wants to come. It is honestly, most of the time, summer programs are designed for learners that are behind or below grade level. We are focusing on that group of students, but we are also focusing on those that honestly might have struggled with social, emotional, or mental health supports. We're focusing on students that need credit recovery, and you'll see some of the options in just a second, or all of the opportunities on my next slide. So you can see some of the program details. We'll start off with a pre-assessment for every student, and then we will actually do a post-assessment at the end of the summer, along with close monitoring of data throughout the program. The program is an extended day. It is not a shorter program like in the past, where most summer programs are about 4 hours. It is a full day program. Here are all the opportunities. I know there's a lot of words on this slide, so I apologize for that, but you can see all the different students that will be impacted by our summer programming. The pathways to CAN 1 are those students that are coming up from pre-K and kindergarten into those next grade levels. RISE is the program that will really be designed for learners that might be below grade level, but other students can access as well. That's for grades 2 through 8. The high school bridge are for grades 9 through 12, and the bridge is so students, it is not remediation. The bridge is to help students get ready for some of the coursework they're going to be facing in the fall. And I'm not going to do every one of these, but Senior Squeeze is going to be 2 weeks. We're going to allow more hands-on through our CTE programs. Our EC students are going to be same schedule and in the same schools as RISE, so they are interacting with their peers. We're doing special programs for AIG, special camps, special English language learner, dual language immersion. You can see all of these different opportunities all the way down. And we will also have a fee-based camp with scholarships as one of our summer enrichment programs. So summer, what I want folks to think about is summer is an extension of the school year. It should feel like it is designed for every learner, and we want our students to be excited about spending more time with us this summer in order to be better prepared for the fall. So that is summer learning. And the last part of the update is the bond project update. And I think that the last time you had a presentation on this, I'm thinking was about a year ago, potentially, if I'm correct. And so where I've started is since January 2020, this is where we're at with some of our projects. And so if you look, we're in phase 2 at both Con Oak and Paisley Lawrence, and you can see where we are with both of those. This, again, the phase 1 was already completed, but this was phase 2 for both of those, and it was basically getting rid of old buildings, old parking lots, and installing new playgrounds. And you can see one of the playgrounds there. You can also see since January 2020, the Easton classroom additions and renovations were completed, and I know a couple of you, I think it was Dr. Martin and Ms. McDaniel, you actually visited the site. If anyone else did, I'm sorry, but so you got to see it. It's beautiful. The new wing is beautiful. The classrooms are absolutely beautiful, and so that project is completed. You can see in progress, Louisville Middle. If you haven't had a chance to get out there, we can arrange for that. Designed for 800 students will open this fall. Also in progress, and this will be done in December, is the Wiley Middle School gym and four classroom additions. These projects are in design and planning phases. So basically, there are 3 that the construction actually starts this summer. We have Philo Hill Magnet, that renovation will start this summer. North Forsyth High School renovation and JFK Middle and High School renovation. All 3 of those will start this summer. And then you can see the last 2. We are requesting qualifications for the Ashley Elementary School design and also doing a property evaluation for the Brunson Elementary School replacement. So that's what's happening next. And that's it for my update.
I have a question.
Yes.
When exactly does summer school end and the new year begin? What week or what month?
Yeah.
Or?
So summer school will end July 29th, which is really late. We had wanted to start the school year, we were hoping to be able to start the school year earlier, but the school year teachers come back August 16th. So there's a 3-week window, and since we really want our strong teachers to teach in the summer, that there'll be a 3-week window between summer and the start of the school year, which I think will be needed for folks to actually take a little bit of time away before kicking off a brand-new school year.
Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments on our presentation?
Yes, Chairman. if you don't
Commissioner
mind.
McDaniel.
Yes, hi, Tricia. I have 2 questions. The first question that I have is relative to quantifying the remote students that are participating and what has been done relative to the digital divide. We know from the last superintendent, she was supposed to come back and kind of give us an update on that. So that's important
Yes.
in terms of what's happening with the
Oh
technology.
my gosh, I wish I would have bought some numbers around it because it's very exciting. So
Okay.
we literally, and I don't know if you all have ever had a chance to meet Kevin Sherrill, who has been in the district for a long time. He is in charge of IT. All of our students received a one-to-one. So basically, they received either a Chromebook or laptop or something to have the device at home. And then we also did a major outreach on Wi-Fi devices. We sent Wi-Fi buses into neighborhoods where that was a better resolution than giving every student their own Wi-Fi or jetpack. And so basically, we did everything in our power to fill those gaps. And I will tell you that when school started, it took probably the first 3 weeks to actually have the CARES team. As schools were saying, so-and-so's not logging in,
Right.
the site-based CARES team would go out and check, and if we needed to, we would send the district CARES team out. And a lot of individual situations or neighborhoods or communities were discovered that way. And so we would take the instruments out to homes. And so I'll be honest with you, and I will actually supply you all with numbers when I come back. I'll add that to my presentation because to me, it's just been one of our points of pride as a district and community. And then our community learning centers were a powerful source of providing for students that were struggling, and we were not back in session as a district yet. Students were actually able to go to our community learning centers. So it definitely, again, is a point of pride about how much technology was pushed out into our community.
Sure, okay. And thank you for that, I appreciate it. And my second question was relative to, I saw the bond update on Ashley, and it sounded as if, and I know I keep harping on Ashley, but I just want to know like what's
Absolutely.
happening. That we're still under the design, and I thought that it was told that they were under sale or something like that.
We are, Daryl, are you there? Because you might be able to get more specific. I know we have found the site to build Ashley.
Okay.
I believe it's in the design phase of actually designing the school building. Daryl, will you verify if I'm accurate?
Yeah, you're accurate. We have purchased the land
Okay.
for the new site, and that this design will be designed around that particular piece of property.
Is it possible to share, or it's not possible to share where that property is right now?
Yeah, Daryl, can you do
Yeah,
you?
yeah. It's along close to New Hope Lane. Currently just up from Cleveland Homes. It's part of the revitalization program as well, that the grant for the housing authority. So it's kind of in that footprint, close to the park, close to Fairview Park, just above the hill at Fairview Park there.
Yeah, I actually have visited it. It's going to be amazing. I just am still learning on my roads, and
that's okay.
GPS does not help.
No,
Because
totally
I'm always
understandable.
looking at my phone, but yeah,
That's
it's going to
good
be
to know,
beautiful.
but thank you so very much for the update. Thank you.
Thank you.
Additional comments or questions from Ms. Manis?
A couple of questions, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Chairman. Have you heard anything from the state on what they're going to do about EOC school evaluations for this year, since there have been so many interruptions?
Yeah, so ELCs are being taken, so all the assessments are still being given this school year as planned. As far as how they're going to be used to provide grades, we don't have a current update on what that will look like yet, but they're being given.
Okay, yeah, that was my follow-up. How they're going to provide grade promotion criteria given the unknown entities we encountered, this year. You had a note about educational services for families. Can you give us some more information on what that looks like, please?
So this will be, because we're not just focusing on academics, we're going to be providing additional resources to our families through our counselors, social workers, other staff that will be employed in the summer for parent and family outreach. So that may be in-person sessions for families, virtual sessions, depending on what is needed. But basically how to continue supporting our children during the summer months and getting ready for the fall. One of the areas we really want to focus on is incoming kindergarten.
Okay.
Even at this point, our enrollment for kindergarten for next year is low. It was lower this year as well. And so really getting the word out to families and getting our kindergartners back in school so they can get started this fall. So some of it will be kindergarten outreach, and then hopefully also pre-K, adding more students into our pre-K program. So it's going to be, the menu of support will vary, and it's going to be very different depending on each school and needs of families and what it's going to help them.
Do you anticipate using your care teams as a part of that effort?
Yes, so we're going to continue with our CARES teams, even as we go into next school year. CARES teams is something that we are going to keep as a priority. Again, every school has already, prior to the pandemic, kind of an internal CARES team with your social workers, counselors, school psychologists. I mean, you do have that built-in CARES team, but the work that's been done this school year has kind of taken it up to a new level. And having the district CARES team, that includes people that live in our communities, that know our communities, can relate to our families, can get out and knock on doors. That's been an added bonus this year. So we're going to definitely continue that throughout this summer and moving into next fall.
Okay.
And next school year, actually.
And last question, those 21st century community learning centers, I like the idea and concept. Any idea where those might be placed in the community at this point, or are you still developing that strategy?
They are actually, and I should have written the specific schools down. So 21st Century Learning are in 4 of our Inspired 340 schools, and then Freedom Schools are going to be housed in 5 of our Inspired 340 schools. So they're going to be housed in, and I can get the specific names to you. I didn't write those down before I came, but they'll be in Inspired 340.
Okay.
So some of our schools that have been struggling, they'll have a mixture of both the services from those programs and our academic programming.
Yeah, the literary component of Freedom Schools is very impressive. I did a little reading last summer with some of those schools. It was very, very impressive. So I
Yes.
highly commend you on those. I'll be more critical the next time, but this time we'll let you with a soft,
Oh, thank you.
soft bunt.
Thank you.
I'm delighted you got reading as one of the top priorities. That's really good. I congratulate you on that. Do you have any closing remarks?
Well, I got a couple
Oh,
questions.
all right, Commissioner Martin.
And I just want to be clear on the testing part. I actually did understand that end-of-course tests were going to be given and have been. Are the end-of-grade tests, are they going to return this spring too?
Which one's the end of?
Grade tests?
Yeah,
for
the
K through eight,
the actual standards assessments, the state assessment, at this point, yes, we have not been told differently yet.
Okay. A question on the Ashley project, if my memory serves me correctly, that school will also be a sort of a social service hub too? And I think that was a part of the.
Like a community school? Like where you have all of the services in one place?
Yes, yeah.
You know what, I'm going to have to write that down. That's a good question.
Because I think it was,
Yeah.
I thought it was a part of the original Housing Authority grant.
Right.
That would tie into Ashley, and we'll have everything from, I'm not sure about health service, but
Yes.
certainly Department of Social Services support as kind of a one-stop shop. A community
Absolutely.
school or a
You know what, and
proper name.
we have met with the group, the Housing Authority, and the group that's overseeing the project. We've had a couple of meetings with them to talk about what's going to happen with the housing there and where our students are going to be going and when they come back and what that's going to all look like. And they have talked a lot about other social services being right there in the community. We haven't talked about it being on Ashley's site, but that would be a great idea to have it as a community school.
Yeah, because if you're programming the facility now, then that's a big issue if you're going to combine
Yep.
that with it. And in fact, I'm sure you visited the Mineral Springs Elementary and Middle. That building was actually, in one of the previous construction projects, we built a health center in conjunction serving those two schools and bringing that on site. The health center was paid for by basically Baptist.
Yes.
Our health group, of which you're a member of now, actually created that, the School Health Council actually created that and actually paid for it. So that kind of, in a much better model, which I thought was the intent in the Housing Authority piece, really does provide a lot of service, particularly that location is a great one to do that. But
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's important in the planning now. The other question, and this is we talked about, as Commissioner McDaniel mentioned, finding out about kind of the care teams in that report, and we really would appreciate seeing kind of some of those numbers. But similarly, with all these federal dollars, some of it's been state dollars in the beginning, but there've been, there are kind of three pots of money. One of them was about 25 million, and in the early days, and that covered a whole bunch of different things, a lot of cafeteria food service, a lot of things. But in particular, we had been requested last year to buy a lot of electronic, a lot of equipment. Basically textbooks online, a lot of those kind of materials. And I think, as you probably know, we've had Kerry Crutchfield's done some work for the county, and I've just been through his charts once. I just kind of looked through them. But I'm real curious how that money got spent, because we asked about sort of how it would be, and there was a kind of report scheduled in the fall, and it didn't happen. And it would really be interesting to know where you are on this textbook thing, because that's been a problem forever. Seems like there's a lot of a lot of opportunities to solve it, and particularly with the electronic textbooks, and during the pandemic, would have been great. I'd be real curious to know how those dollars got spent, and then a little bit, and you might be able to talk in general terms now. You've got a 60 some odd million sort of sitting there as of December. And then I don't even know what your share will be of this next group. Our share is 74 million. I don't know what your share is going to be. But I'm kind of curious about what kind of thinking you all are having on this. I mean, obviously the summer program, great source. You're going to have the money for, you got that money. You got one pot of money for 18 months. I think this next one will take you to probably 2024. So doing multiple summer activities is a great thing, and that's a great use for that money. But I'd be curious about sort of the other things that you all are sort of big hunks that you're thinking about trying to tackle.
And we will be, Andrea, Ms. Gillis and I will be presenting to our board. She's going to give kind of a high-level overview next Tuesday to our board during our committee meetings. And then I will be happy when we come back to bring an overview. I know when I come back in May, I think I'm doing a budget update, but we can bring an overview. So staff met, and if you think about these dollars, they are ESSER dollars to help kids that have fallen behind, continue to support health, safety, well-being, social, emotional, all of those things. And so our staff actually spent time, a full day, in just a brainstorming, like what are going to be the best uses of these funds? And not same old, like what do we need to do to really get our kids on track, to start closing achievement gaps? We already had achievement gaps. This has potentially widened them even more, but they were already extremely wide. And so basically, when you look at the dollars, a big part of them will be for social, emotional, and mental health supports. Some of that may be in people, some of that may be in programming, and then other areas, training, one-to-one. So we want to actually enhance our one-to-one program. This year, it's been more of a reaction of we've got to get devices in kids' hands, and we've got it so they can learn remotely. The purpose of one-to-one devices is to actually strengthen instruction, strengthen personalized learning for students so that we can advance individual outcomes. That will be, so we will use some of the dollars to be able to strengthen our one-to-one implementation. So that's technology. We will continue to focus on safety, and if there's anything we can do around air quality, I know Daryl's on. So every division had areas of focus that if you think about the purpose of ESSER dollars, how do we fulfill that purpose and use the money, wisely so that we can actually make a difference for our kids? And so those are some of the bigger pots of instruction is also part of that. Is there anything we need to do instructionally? So continuing to do extended learning throughout the school year, in addition to summer, will be a big part of it. And so, but I'll add that if you would like to the May update after we've actually presented to our own board and make sure that they've seen, and then I'll be happy to bring how we actually are thinking about spending those dollars when I come back in May.
Good.
Those are that's kind of the high level, big buckets.
Tricia McManus, it's been an education for us. We're delighted that you came in here. Very enlightening. Look forward to many more appearances and discussions of the Winston-Salem Forsyth County school system. And from a personal point of view, I think you performed very well today, and thank you for appearing before us. And we look forward to the future.
Thank you. Appreciate
Now,
it.
we've got 22 items on the agenda. It'll take us about an hour and a half if you want to stay, but I have a feeling you probably have other things to do today. And
Yes, believe it or not, I have another Teams meeting, so I'll be, but thank you all for your
And
time.
Darrell Walker did perform well, didn't he?
He's up there. If anything else you need to know from Daryl, he knows a lot. He's up there.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, we're going to turn to our county manager, Dudley Watts, to talk about a recovery plan that we've been discussing for quite a few weeks now. And what's new?
Okay, so if I could, let me push kind of that information and also the calendar updates off to after the session. after
Okay,
we go
that's
through the
fine.
agenda.
Sure.
So I'll do that. I do want to jump in front of that and get Damon to introduce a new department manager to you. So I'll turn it over to Damon Sanders Pratt.
Mr. Manager, Commissioners, and Mr. Chairman, I'd like to introduce Darren Ziegler as the county's new Emergency Services Director. As you know, Emergency Services is made up of fire and EMS and 911 communications. And so Darren has extensive experience in all those areas from different perspectives. He most recently comes to us from one of our two non-emergency transport service providers. Before that, he worked for us for 30 years in emergency services, making his way up to the deputy position. He's also a chief and transitioning out of that role in one of the local volunteer fire departments. So we are looking forward to his experience, ideas, and energy to help us to continue to move forward our emergency services system.
Maybe I shouldn't ask this question, but I'm going to anyway. There used to be a chairman of this board named Ziegler, a dentist from up near Rural Hall. Is our new man here is he related in any way?
Not to my knowledge.
With that, this is Darren Ziegler, our new.
Well, the Zieglers have a big reputation, and we're delighted to have you with us. Yeah. Anything you'd like to say?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, and as he mentioned, I basically grew up here. I mean, I came to work for Forsyth County. I was 18 years old. I've lived in this county my entire life, so it's kind of coming back home to me.
Great.
Good, welcome.
Glad you're here. Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Oh, there you go. Dudley Watts.
Thank you, Darren. We're glad to have you. Yeah, so basically what we have for the rest of the afternoon is we'll finalize the agenda for the April 15th meeting. A couple of just items to mention, and then we'll go into closed session. We do have an additional economic development matter to bring before you in closed session today. It kind of reflects the work that the Greater Winston's done in terms of their program as the economy's cranking back up. So let's go ahead and dive into the items to finalize those for the second briefing for Thursday, April 15th. We have a number of carryover items, which are items 1, 2, 3, and 3, I believe. And then we've got the proposed ordinance, the unnamed road segment, I think was also a carryover item. So the first item that we introduced last Thursday was item 5. It's a public hearing on a zoning petition by CNKS LLC. It's zoning docket F1598. Aaron King reviewed that, and he's on the line if you have any questions.
Questions, comments?
All right, very good. Item 6 is a public hearing on another zoning petition. It's by Dennis Weevil and Edna Edwards from AG to Limited Industrial. It's zoning docket F-1599, and that was also reviewed by Aaron last Thursday, and he's available if you have questions.
Questions? Okay.
Okay. Item 7 is a public hearing on an ordinance amendment proposed by Planning and Development Services staff. It amends sections of the Unified Development Ordinance, and it aligns with some legislation that was North Carolina General Statute 160A, some modifications into North Carolina General Statute 160D. After the public hearing, you've got the ordinance to deal with. Chris Murphy reviewed it. Since it's a public hearing, it will follow on as carryover business since we're in the virtual meeting environment.
Any questions?
All right. Item 8 is approval of the minutes for the meeting of April 1st, and they have gone out, or I don't think I've seen them, but I could have missed it.
They should go out tomorrow.
They'll be out tomorrow, so you'll get a chance to take a look at those. Item 9 is the public session. Item 10 is a resolution authorizing acceptance of a grant from North Carolina Agricultural Foundation awarded to North Carolina Cooperative Extension, and it will fund some improvements at the Arboretum of Tanglewood Park, particularly the irrigation system. Janice Hillenbrand reviewed that.
Questions?
All right. Item 11 is an amendment to the 2020 Motor Vehicle Mobile Equipment Replacement Capital Projects Ordinance. It appropriates the $93,285 that we received from the sale of surplus equipment.
Comments? Okay.
Item 12 is an amendment to the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget ordinance that appropriates $500,000 from unreserved fund balance for youth detention costs. And I had a protracted discussion about sort of what was driving that. And there was some information that was provided after that that was, I believe, forwarded on to the board. So you would have received that from Stan Clarkson and the other guy. And Rich Smith, I think, both provided that information, which was a pretty interesting, detailed review of kind of what's happening in that youth detention world.
Questions? Okay.
Okay. Agenda item 13 is an amendment to the 2012 Schools Capital Projects Ordinance to get those other projects funded.
Comments?
All right. Item 14 is a resolution authorizing quantum Marut payments to WellPath LLC for Vivitrol injections, and then a similar item for Safe on 7 funding for legal aid that was in that prior year. Question?
Questions or comments? Where will Safe on 7 be located when it's all finished?
Safe on 7 actually is has been merged into the bridges for. I'll let Chantel respond to that. She can tell you that.
So the Safe on 7 is essentially merged into Bridges to Hope Family Justice Center. And so it is still under construction, but the team has started working. So that's under Director Dewana Hamlin, who you've all have met. And so one side of the wing is already open and then renovated. And so they are serving clients out of that with family services. And our staff is starting to help kind of navigate. And then we'll start opening it up to partners and other agencies probably in the next couple months. So once there's like a real, grand reopening, we will certainly invite everyone, but it's been a work in progress.
Additional questions or comments on this item? If not, thank you.
Yeah, and I would just add that the work of Safe on 7 has been done the entire time and continues. It's just kind of under that new name. So item 16 is a resolution authorizing execution of an engagement letter and audit contract with Elliott Davis for the independent audit. Terry Goodman reviewed that if you've got questions.
Questions?
All right. Item 17, you got a resolution awarding and authorizing execution of contracts for enterprise resource planning, software, and implementation services. You got associated ordinance to the amendment to the PAYGO ordinance for 2019 and amendment to the fiscal year 2021 budget ordinance. David Kwiatkowski reviewed that last Thursday as our chief information officer and also the facilitator for all of that work, and he's here if you have questions.
Comments? All right.
All right. Item 18 is a resolution approving the donation of a surplus county vehicle to the Forsyth County Humane Society and SPCA Incorporated. Deputy Manager Damon Sanders Pratt reviewed that.
Questions?
Okay. Item 19 is a resolution designating new review officers to review and certified maps and plats for Forsyth County, North Carolina. Aaron King reviewed that.
Questions?
All right. Item 20 and 21 are both resolutions approving refunds by the taxes collector assessor in the amount of $1,070.74 and $467.98 respectively.
Comments?
Okay, item 22 is an ordinance revising Chapter 1, Chapter 7, Chapter 9, Chapter 20, and Chapter 25 of the Forsyth County Code. Fred Johnson reviewed that, and it really is related to that, the planning item related to the UDO of 160D.
Questions? Not a one.
All right, you got the reports. You've got the auction surplus summary report. You've got a contribution-based benefit report, and then the appropriation transfers report for January and February. So you got those for your review. And then the final item on the agenda is the resolution authorizing the appropriation of funds. And I'm going to try to pull this up because I do want to make one mention of one item there. That was the presentation from Greater Winston, Inc., authorizing the appropriation funds for continued development and refinement of advanced air mobility strategies for an unmanned aircraft system industry in Forsyth County. You've got an associated budget ordinance amendment that appropriates it. And I just wanted to be clear, there are 3 deliverables that we are expecting from Greater Winston, Inc. For that. And so the specific deliverables are the continued development of an unmanned traffic management concept of operations, building on and refining the preliminary recommendations from the FAA and the North Carolina Department of Transportation. So the idea is that we would have this traffic management system, which really is the kind of the public part of that. We are awaiting on guidance from FAA and NCDOT, but it's extending the pilot that was done that would take us to beyond the line of sight. The second one is the development of a proposal that will be submitted to NASA's national campaign to include Winston-Salem and Forsyth County as a partner location for advanced air mobility focused research and testing. Don't ask me what that exactly is, but that's what that says.
I'm going to do it anyway. Does that have to do with drones?
It definitely has to do with drones.
Yeah.
That's about what I can, that's the only thing I know about it. So.
Okay.
And then the last item, the third deliverable there is preparation of requests for proposals for specific capital infrastructure necessary to meet industry requirements, including radar and weather sensing equipment. And so, you know, we got very specific about what these dollars will purchase.
You know, that last part is kind of exciting because it shows the future. You got a lot going on. Any questions for what Mr. Watts had to say? Comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to borrow a phrase from Commissioner Martin. I'm experiencing some heartburn over the nonprofit aspect. And also, why would the Airport Commission not be funding this instead of the county commissioners?
I think that's a great idea, actually.
Commissioner Kaplan, would you have any thoughts on that at all?
Whatever the board chooses to do, I will say that I've been thinking about this for some time, and the complication of the airport, our airport, will probably be profitable. That's all the assumptions they have. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending where you sit, the FAA requires that any funds that the airport receives, profit or any funds, needs to be spent at the airport. And this particular program will be spent to benefit the airport, obviously the economy, but certainly the airport. And it may be a very good place for the funds to come from. The manager will have to decide if that's
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I think the only issue on this is I do know there's a timing question because there's legislative, I mean, this has to be done by this summer, a couple things. And so I think the timing is an issue, and I think the ultimate source, the airport, makes a lot of sense. But if can that happen, can the airport funds be, if we were to approve this, can the airport funds then be do we make that decision, or does it got to go somewhere else?
So certainly the manager would have to comment on that, but it would seem to me that if we would like the airport commission to take it up, we can let them know. They meet every month. So they'll meet several times before the summer and actually they could even be remotely, which they've been doing. So if this board wishes that that be the place it comes from, I don't see why they couldn't take that.
Yeah, so.
I just know, I think that's the part, there is a cash flow piece to this process, I think is the only issue. But I think ultimately, that's where the beneficiary, and that's where the value, and that's where it should go. I just think probably the issue of the timing of coming, and when it did, probably didn't have another 6 weeks to wait, kind of deal, if it's going to be a 6-week process to go through the airport, for example.
So the logistics of where the money comes from is really simple. It's just a matter of changing the second part of this to instead of appropriate from unreserved fund balance, you would actually appropriate some airport fund balance in the airport set of accounts and then appropriate it from that. So that is literally just words on a page to change.
Then that's easy.
The more complicated piece of that would be, before we do that, I think the advisory board of the airport probably should say grace over that. Now, that can happen at an airport meeting. Do you know when y'all meeting next? Do you meet before next Thursday?
I believe it's April 12th.
Is not Michael Bond on the airport commission?
Yes, he is.
Mm-hmm.
So it meets the 20th?
So we can certainly put it in, that would just push it off to that next cycle, and we could wait for just their discussion and debate and okay. I mean, clearly the project is built around unmanned, beyond line of sight, drone usage that keeps the drone out of the airspace for the airport. That's the whole traffic management system. And so, I mean, the FAA is going to require that before they ever issue any of this. So, I mean, it can be, if you direct me as such, it can be a notification to the airport commission that you're about to do this, and then we can deal with it. I'll manage it, handle it any way you want to.
I don't have all the details, but from a personal point of view, and I'm stand corrected if I'm wrong, but I see this as a giant step for Smith Reynolds Airport in terms of its competitiveness in the market that we have, and for the whole state for that matter. It's a big deal for everybody. I didn't even know what a drone was 10 years ago, so it's a big deal still.
I had one question, please.
Yes,
Mr.
sir, go
Chairman.
right ahead.
Dudley, would the study we commission come back to us still if the airport commission funded this? That was the impetus of this whole project, I thought.
The
study that they were commissioned to do or complete, would that come back to us as county commissioners or go to the airport commission if they fund it?
Probably both. I mean, ultimately, even if they're funding it, you're funding. I mean, you are them, so.
Wouldn't make that much difference. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the only two things I can see on the agenda is the recovery plan discussion and a calendar change from our clerk, Ashley Sloop.
Okay. So, yeah, and these are really just informational items, and it'll be very quickly. One's mine, one's Ashley's. The Recovery Plan Act, there's two things I wanted to do. One is, I did receive some information from ICMA. They had a presentation about the recovery plan, and, their legislative folks had reviewed it and put together a plan. I just wanted to provide that information to you. It has, the first part of it is really information about how they are interpreting that these dollars can or cannot be used. The rest of it is where the rest of the money went. And so, as our community plans for how to spend these dollars, part of it is knowing what you can and can't do with money. Part of it is knowing what other money is doing other things so that you're not duplicating them and what have you. And so, anyway, I just wanted to give that to you. There's still not a lot of answers out there. There's not Treasury guidance that I've seen. I hear it's forthcoming. I think that's great. The other piece of that is that there is a webinar that the Association of County Commissioners is putting on next Tuesday from 3 to 4. We'll make sure we got staff that's there to watch that. And as soon as we really get an understanding of kind of what this looks like, we'll jump into full gear and start doing some scenario planning and kind of idea generation around all that. It's hard to do that. Everybody's calling saying, we'd like, would this project meet the goals? Would that project meet the goals? And I know you're getting a lot of that as well. The truth is, all we know is we've got the law, and there's not Treasury guidance there yet to say, here's what we can do with it. And it's one of those things that's fairly vague, and so somebody's going to fill in the blanks. And so we're just waiting for that to happen. But I just wanted to put that on the table. And so you've got I've given you the best information I've seen yet around what that is. There's just not a lot there to it. There's a whole lot more information about avenues that other money will be flowing through, like EDA grant dollars and, all these other things. And so, we'll see where all that goes. So if you got any questions about that, I'll be happy to take them. Otherwise, I'll hand it over to Ashley to talk about the calendar.
Mrs. Sloop?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So today, we're going to talk about the July 2021 calendar. The NACO Annual Conference was originally scheduled for July 16th through the 19th in Travis County, Texas. The NACO Board of Directors voted to conduct the annual conference in a hybrid format, so it will be in person and virtual. However, they moved the date and the location. So the new dates are July 9th through the 12th, and it's going to be in Prince George's County, Maryland. And with that being said, I have two different options for you. Let me share the screen, which you can see. On the left-hand side is our current calendar, which there would be no briefing on July 1st or the 15th. And with the date change for the NACO Annual Conference of July 9th through the 12th, option 1 allows a no briefing July 1st and July 8th. And you would have the NACO Annual Conference the 9th through the 12th, and then we would get back on schedule with our briefing and meeting schedule. Option 2 has a briefing on July 1st, no briefing on July the 8th, and no briefing on July 29th, which is the 5th Thursday of the month. And so I bring this to you to get your opinion so we can change the commissioner's calendar. Anyone have any comments?
And the question in my mind is, when you have an in-person meeting such as discussed, there will be guidelines as to how many actual persons are going to be able to be there. How would that affect us if we wanted to go to that meeting?
There will be a limit on the number of attendees.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do want to attend in person, we would have to schedule you early to ensure that you can attend in person.
Mm-hmm. Comments and questions on the proposal, 1 and 2?
I support option 1.
So we have you've got your answer right there. There are 4 of us up here that say we support option 1.
Thank you.
Are there 4 that agreed to option 1? I'm just checking.
Well,
Because I'd go for option 2 on a personal list. Just personal.
naturally, that's what you do.
I just want to see if we got 4.
That's
We
your
have 4 that want to go with
job.
option
We
1.
got Tanya, Dave, Ted, and Gloria.
All right, so we all want to know. Got it.
But now look, if you want.
I'm good. I'm good. I understand 4. I understand it.
See, that's one of the things I like about you.
I just wanted, but I didn't count that, so I didn't hear it. I just wanted to hear it.
This is what makes my job here as a commissioner worthwhile.
I'm just looking at the
love being
calendar,
around.
I just wanted to
Don,
make sure.
you're just terrific. That's just the way I look at it. And I could go either way, AM, FM, AC, DC, that kind of thing.
Enough.
We have consensus.
We can go into closed session whenever you're ready, Mr. Chairman.
No.
Richard, what do you think? Think we ought to go into closed session?
Yes.
Okay. Richard's given the go-ahead, so you can read it.
Thank you. Need to ask the board to consider a motion to go into closed session to discuss one matter relating to the location or expansion of industries or other businesses in the area served by the public body, including agreement on a tentative list of economic development incentives that may be offered by the public body in negotiations pursuant to provisions of General Statute 143, 31811A4. Since there's no other business to come before the board at this meeting, following the closed session, the meeting will be adjourned.
Mr. Kaplan has made that motion. I'll second the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.